The sky over Colony LX9 turned black in seconds. The sun vanished behind clouds of smoke, and fire rained down from the heavens. At first, the people looked up in confusion. Then, they screamed. Alien warships broke through the sky like knives, cutting glass. Buildings exploded. Communication towers fell. The colony's defense system didn't even get the chance to power up. No warning, no message, no reason. In less than 12 minutes, over 1 million humans were dead. From orbit, the Drexery ships hovered in silence. They scanned the destruction, recorded it, and sent one single transmission into the stars. Earth has grown weak. Their colonies are ripe. We claim this world. Across the galaxy, this message was heard by every major species. It was heard by traitors. It was heard by the cowards who watched. And it was heard by Earth. Inside Earth Fleet Command, the room was quiet. No one spoke. Screens showed the burning ruins of the colony. The smell of burned metal filled the command deck. A woman stood at the center of the room, her jaw tight, her eyes locked on the images. Her name was Captain Mara Ilias. Her record said she had survived 7 wars. Her enemies said she had no mercy. Her friends said she never forgot, didn't blink as the images played. She didn't look away when the screams echoed through the speakers. She just stood there, hands behind her back, watching everything burn. The Drexery thought Earth was quiet because it was weak. They were wrong. Location of the Drexery fleet? Mara asked. Gone, ma'am. The officer replied. They hit and vanished. No transmissions since. And our response protocol? Still in place. The Council recommends no direct retaliation yet. They're pushing for diplomacy. Mara turned her head slowly. Her voice was cold. Did diplomacy save the colony? No, ma'am. She stepped forward. Her boots clicked against the steel floor. Begin silent fleet movement. Activate black flag. Units don't wait for authorization. We don't need permission to bury the dead. Somewhere far away, the Galactic High Council was in session. Alien ambassadors sat in floating chairs. Holograms of the destroyed colony played in front of them. Some gasped, some laughed, a few shook their heads. One Drexery official stood proudly. Is finished, he said. They've grown soft. The humans no longer remember what war is. They explore, they talk, they build, but they do not fight. He was wrong. The council room dimmed as an old alien stepped forward. His skin was gray and cracked like stone. He had lived long too long. He remembered things the others had forgotten. He whispered, "You think Earth has forgotten war? They were born in war. They survived their own madness, their own fire, their own weapons. When you burn a human colony, you do not make them scared. You make them angry, and anger is something you do not want from Earth." The Drexery ambassador laughed. They won't respond. We attacked quietly. We left no evidence. They can't even find us. Back on Earth, inside a mountain command base hidden under layers of rock and steel, Captain Mara stood before a round black table. 8 others stood with her. They wore no ranks. Their names were erased from records. They belonged to a group, known only in whispers, the Architects. The treaty has been broken, one of them said. It was never a real treaty, Mara replied. It was a warning, and they ignored it. One architect placed a glass sphere on the table. Inside it, a hologram of the galaxy spun slowly. Do you request activation? Mara looked at the sphere. Activate protocol Ironfire. Begin the hunt. In deep space, light years away from any known route, a Drexery warship floated quietly. Its crew was relaxed. They had just completed the attack. No one was chasing them. They believed they were invisible. Until they weren't. Without warning, their sensors shut off. The captain stood up, confused. Status, no one answered. The stars outside the window vanished. A large black object passed by them. No lights, no signals, no markings. Then, everything exploded. The Drexery ship was torn apart by a weapon they didn't understand. It wasn't missiles, it wasn't lasers. It was something else, something human. A shadow in space that killed without sound. Only one Drexery pod escaped. A single survivor drifted into darkness, whispering in his escape logs. It wasn't a ship. It was death with wings. Earth made no broadcast, no warnings. They didn't ask for talks. Instead, one by one, Drexery stations went dark. Outposts found their air scrubbed, their reactors frozen, their soldiers gone. Human ships didn't need fleets. One was enough. Silent, fast, angry. Inside the Galactic Council, panic grew. We must stop this, one ambassador cried. Earth is retaliating without rules. The old grey aliens stood again. They are following the rule, the only one that matters. The one all of us forgot. The chamber fell silent. never make humanity angry. But the Drexari didn't listen. They sent more ships, bigger fleets. They called for allies. They believed they could crush Earth before the humans hit back harder. But Earth had already stopped preparing. They had already started the war. On Mars, war factories lit up the red sands. Giant machines built new weapons never seen before. Orbital stations launched smart drones the size of insects. AI-guided plasma swarms began testing formations. And deep beneath the oceans of Earth, something else woke up, a secret built in case this day ever came. Captain Mara stood in the bridge of the warship Oathbreaker, watching as her fleet gathered in silence. No bright colors, no heroic music, just rows of steel monsters ready to disappear into the stars. She didn't make a speech, she just whispered. For every scream I heard, we will answer. Then she gave the final command, jump, and the stars twisted as humanity vanished. Into hyperspace, not to defend, but to remind the galaxy why Earth was once feared, and why it should be again. In the quiet part of space, where no trade routes passed and no satellites reached, a Drexari cruiser floated calmly. It was one of the ships that had attacked Colony LX-9. The crew celebrated. They thought the war was over before it began. Human ships had followed them. No messages from Earth, nothing. They believed they were safe. Inside the command room, Captain Vorex leaned back in his chair. He had 4 arms, black scales, and eyes like burning coal. He had led the strike. He was proud. Earth didn't respond. Their silence meant weakness. Scan the zone again, he said lazily. His officer blinked in confusion. No ships detected, Captain. Empty space. Vorex nodded. Of course, Earth has no courage. He didn't know what was coming. Far behind them, something moved. No light, no sound, no trace dot. Not on any Drexari radar, not on any star map. A ship approached, not large, not fast, but something terrifying. It looked like a shadow carved from metal, shaped like a blade. No windows, no engines glowing, just a black spear in space. The Drexari didn't see it. They couldn't. But someone on the ship was watching them. On board the human vessel, Commander Rhea Solis stood in complete darkness. She wore a neural link over her head. Her eyes were closed. Her mind was inside the ship. She didn't need buttons. She didn't need screens. The ship was alive, part AI, part machine, part human design. It was called Spectre 9. It had no official record. It had no logo. Not even Earth knew how many of these ships existed. Rhea whispered, target locked. The Drexari ship didn't even get time to respond. First, its engines died. Then, its lights shut off. One by one, doors locked. Oxygen vanished. From the holes, its crew screamed, but no sound escaped. A pulse weapon hit them from inside their own systems. Spectre-9 had entered their ship digitally before it even fired a shot. Then came the real strike. The black ship moved so fast. It blurred. It sliced through the Drexari cruiser's hull with a magnetic rail spike. The spike carried a payload, not a bomb but a virus. The virus took control of their ship's core. The Drexari crew tried to fight. Guns wouldn't respond. Shields wouldn't activate. Their control panels melted. Their navigation flipped upside down. Then, the human voice came through their speakers. You broke the treaty. Earth did not forget. We do not forgive. Then the ship exploded from the inside out. Only one escape pod made it out. Inside, a young Drexari officer, trembling and bleeding, recorded a message on his last energy cell. This is Officer Tyrell. Of the cruiser Darklight, we were attacked. Not by a fleet, not by an army. By something we couldn't see. We couldn't fight. I don't think it was a ship. I think it was death, he cried. I don't know what Earth has become, but it's not weak. It's not soft. Please warn the Council. Don't make them angry. The pod drifted into deep space. Back in Galactic Council territory. News of the destroyed Drexari ship reached the chamber. They're lying, one alien shouted. Earth doesn't have that kind of stealth tech. But then, one trader ship came forward. Its pilot was old, blind in one eye, and terrified. I saw it, he whispered. Not with my scanners, with my eyes. A black shape cut through the stars, like a shadow with sharp teeth. No one wanted to believe him, but fear had already started to grow. The Drexari called an emergency meeting. We must prepare all fleets. One general shouted, we need to strike Earth before they attack us directly. But not everyone agreed. A few council members, old species who had seen Earth's past wars, begged them to stop. Do not push them further, said the gray-skinned Elder Harlan. You don't know what's buried in their history. You don't know what they keep hidden. The Drexari ignored him. They always ignored warnings. On Earth, deep inside a command bunker, Captain Mara Ilias watched the live feed from Spectre 9. She saw the Drexari ship burn. She didn't smile, she didn't blink, she just said, "One down." An officer turned to her. "Ma'am, the survivor pod escaped." "I know. Should we track and destroy?" "No," Mara said. "Let it float. Let them know what's coming." Across human space, black flag ships began to rise from hidden bases. Some came from inside moons, others from under oceans. They didn't carry flags, they didn't speak, they didn't ask questions. They only had one mission: erase the Drexari threat completely. One by one, they entered jump space heading toward Drexari border worlds. No messages were sent, no threats were made, just action, the kind of action only humans knew how to deliver when pushed too far. Back in the escape pod, Officer Tyrell lost consciousness. His pod floated into neutral space and was finally picked up by a scavenger ship. The crew, a mix of alien refugees, listened to his broken story. None of them spoke, because they all knew the stories, old stories, from old wars, stories about Earth's revenge, about the Terran Wars, about the time when humanity turned entire stars into fire. Stories most thought were myths, but now, those stories were alive again, in the darkness of space. Spectre 9 docked into a massive station hidden inside a black gas giant. Dozens of similar ships floated in silence, waiting. Their pilots didn't talk. They didn't eat. They just connected their minds to the fleet and prepared. Earth wasn't fighting a war, it was making a point. You don't get to kill 1 million of our people and expect forgiveness. You don't break the only rule of the galaxy and survive. And you never, ever, mistake Earth's silence for fear, because that's the last mistake you'll make. The Galactic Council had gathered again. Over 300 species sat in the council chamber, floating in orbit above the neutral planet Zethra. Holograms shimmered in the air, reports of destroyed Drexari ships, sensor blackouts, strange energy weapons, and worse, total silence from Earth. The Drexari ambassador slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This is madness. Earth hasn't responded to our communications. They attack us, yet they say nothing. They are hiding. Cowards." Some delegates nodded, others stayed silent, but deep down none of them believed that Earth was hiding. They knew better. In the far end of the hall, an old alien with white eyes stood. He was of the Arvan species, one of the oldest in the galaxy. His voice was dry like wind over stone. "You call them cowards," he said softly, "because they have not shouted. But the humans have always been quiet before the storm." The room murmured, but the Drexari ambassador laughed. "Storm, please. They're humans, weak skin, weak hearts, and weak will. They haven't fought a real war in over 100 years. The Arvan elder looked directly at him. "Exactly, they have not fought in 100 years. Ask yourself, what have they been preparing for?" Silence spread across the chamber. Meanwhile, in deep space, strange things began to happen. A Drexari mining station lost all contact with its fleet. A cargo convoy drifted into a system, only to find it empty. No stars, no light, just a cold gravity well where a sun used to be. Other species noticed strange patterns, wormholes opening where none existed, fleets disappearing, artificial moons appearing near borders, and still, Earth said nothing. No broadcasts. No claims of victory. No threats. They simply acted, and that made the galaxy nervous. Back on Earth, Captain Mara Ilias watched a list of target names disappear from her screen, one by one, marked cleansed. Her command ship, Oathbreaker, stood in orbit around Titan, Earth's largest Black Ops station. Her officers stood still, waiting, but Mara didn't give orders. She didn't need to. The war had already begun, and Earth had planned it years in advance. Every move, every strike, every weapon, now it was just execution. "Any transmissions from Drexari Command?" she asked. "Only confusion," the officer replied. "They still think we're going to send a diplomat." Mara smiled. For the first time, they should have sent one of theirs before they lit our colony on fire. Meanwhile, the only Drexari survivor from Spectre 9's attack, Officer Tyrell, was brought before the Drexari Emperor. His body trembled. His voice shook. He knelt on the cold crystal floor of the Imperial Hall. "They came out of nowhere," he whispered. "We didn't even know they were there. They shut us down like gods. We couldn't see, we couldn't breathe. We just died." The Emperor stared at him with burning yellow eyes. "Did they speak?" Tyrell nodded slowly. One voice, cold, human, said, "We broke the treaty. That Earth remembers." The chamber grew quiet. The Emperor dismissed him with a wave, but inside, something cold touched his chest. A feeling he hadn't felt in centuries. Later, The Emperor held a secret meeting with his top generals. We need allies, he said. Earth is using something beyond technology, maybe something forbidden. We can ask the Gronix Alliance, one general said, or the Mechari. They hate humans. But when the Drexari messengers arrived, they got one reply: we will not interfere with Earth. The message was short, final, and chilling. Other species said the same. No one wanted to get involved, because Earth's silence was louder than any war cry. Back in the council, debates turned into shouting. They are wiping out Drexari systems. They haven't even declared war. This is a violation of galactic law. But one ambassador stood and raised a quiet hand, a Lutheri diplomat. Calm and tall with eyes like water, he said, has anyone actually tried speaking to Earth? The room froze. He continued, we accuse them, we fear them, but have we asked why they haven't spoken? The Drexari snapped back, because they are monsters. But the Lutheri replied, no, because they are mourning. That hit the chamber like thunder. Mourning. For the 1 million humans burned in cold silence on Kol Ani. LX-9. And now the silence was returning the favor. A hologram lit up in the center of the council. A map of Drexari space. Red dots blinked rapidly. Destroyed outposts, vanished fleets, burning systems. One ambassador asked, where are the human fleets? No one answered, because there were no videos, no sensor readings, no battles caught on camera. Just after images. Just silence. On a border moon near Drexari space, a group of alien journalists waited to see proof of Earth's attack. They believed it was all lies. Then a sound cut through space. A single Earth ship appeared. It didn't look like any ship before. It changed shape as it moved, like it was made of living metal. Its hull was smooth, black, and starless, and it didn't fire. It just arrived, and the entire moon powered down, all electronics, all lights, even thoughts inside the reporters' heads blurred like static. Then, just as fast, the ship vanished. One journalist managed to send a final report. They didn't come to be seen, they came to remind us that they could. Back in Earth's command center, Mara sat in silence. A small voice message from a family in Colony LX9 played in her earpiece. A child's laughter, a mother's song, then static. She didn't cry, she just whispered, we will make them remember every second. And she tapped the next target. Still had not spoken a single word to the galaxy, but their silence had become the loudest scream anyone had ever heard, and no one was laughing anymore. The prison ship floated above a broken moon in Drexari space. Its hull was shaped like a claw, sharp and dark. Inside its walls, there were no windows, no light, no hope. That it held only one prisoner, one human, Lieutenant Kieran Malik of Earth's black guard. He sat on the cold floor of his cell, hands cuffed, blood on his lip. His uniform was torn, his body was bruised, but his eyes were calm. He had been captured 3 days ago during an ambush. His entire squad was killed. The Drexari didn't kill him, though. They wanted answers. They wanted to know why Earth hadn't spoken, why Earth hadn't warned them, why Earth was winning. But Kieran had not said a single word. Today, that would change. The cell door opened with a heavy clang. 2 Drexari guards entered, tall and armored. Behind them walked a figure in a red robe, Warlord Skarn, the Drexari's top interrogator. He had broken minds before. He had turned enemies into slaves. He smiled as he entered. Lieutenant Malik, he said smoothly. You've been very quiet, very stubborn, but we have time. Kieran didn't reply. Skarn knelt in front of him, face close. You think silence will save you? He whispered. We have destroyed colonies, burned your people. Still, your leaders hide. They send ghosts, shadows. Do you know what your life is worth? Human. Kieran raised his head slowly, his eyes locked with Skarn's, and then he smiled. It wasn't a crazy smile. It wasn't angry. It was calm, controlled. You've already lost, Kieran said quietly. Skarn's smile faded. What did you say? You already lost, Kieran repeated. The moment you touched that colony, the moment you thought we forgot how to fight, your end began. Skarn stood up sharply. Your fleets are small, your allies are gone. You can't even speak to the council. Kieran didn't blink. You still don't get it. Skarn growled. Then explain it. Kieran's voice stayed soft, almost like a whisper. You think you're dealing with the humans of today, the ones who explore, who trade, who build, but we're more than that, much more. Skarn narrowed his eyes. What are you then? Kieran stared into his face. We're the reason there's only one rule in the galaxy. Skarn turned away, pacing. You're bluffing. Kieran leaned back against the wall. If I was bluffing, I'd be afraid. But look at me. And it was true. He wasn't afraid. He hadn't screamed. He hadn't begged. He hadn't broken. Skarn was used to fear, but Kieran just stared, steady and still, like he knew something. Skarn DIDN, single quotes T. Outside the cell, a signal lit up on the ship's scanner. An object had appeared. Not a fleet. Not a drone, just one thing. A human pod. Empty. Floating. The Drexery pulled it aboard. Inside was only a single message disc. When they played it, a female voice came through. "This is Captain Mara Ilias. You have one of ours. We have 50 of yours. You have 12 hours. That was it. No location, no details. But attached to the message were visual files, images of Drexery, officers in black rooms, captured, silent, and behind each one was a human soldier with a weapon pointed at their head. The Drexery command panicked. The prison ship immediately called for help. Other Drexari ships responded, but by the time they arrived, the sky above the broken moon had changed. Human ships hovered there, invisible before, but now revealed, black warcraft, no lights, no sound. They didn't fire, they didn't need to. The message was clear. Inside the cell, Skarn returned. This time, he looked nervous. "We received a message," he said to Kieran. Kieran tilted his head. "I know." Skarn tried to sound brave. "It doesn't matter. We won't trade." Kieran stood up. His chains clanked. "You don't get to decide anymore." Skarn snapped. "You're a prisoner." Kieran stepped closer. "And yet you're the one sweating." Suddenly, the walls of the prison ship began to vibrate. Systems flickered. Engines shut down. The lights went red. The ship's AI was under attack. A voice echoed through every hallway. "This is Earth's Black Guard. Stand down and release the prisoner, or be deleted." Skarn ran out of the cell, screaming commands, but it was too late. The ship lost control. In less than 90 seconds, the human strike team arrived. They moved like ghosts, fast, silent, exact. Every Drexery guard was stunned, not killed. Every step had a purpose, no waste, no mistakes. The team reached Kieran's cell. One soldier entered, saluted him. "Sir, extraction window 5 minutes." Kieran nodded. As they left, he looked back, once, just once, at the cell. And he smiled again, not for revenge, but because he knew this moment would travel across the stars. Back on Earth, the footage was reviewed. The Council received it too somehow. Someone leaked it. They saw Kieran bloodied, chained, tortured. And they saw him not scream, not cry, just smile. And that shook them, more than the explosions, more than the weapons, because that smile meant something. It meant Earth wasn't just angry, it was ready that night. Across the galaxy, Drexery ships began to retreat. No one said it out loud, but everyone felt it. Earth's silence wasn't weakness, it was focus. And the humans they captured, they didn't blink because they knew something worse was coming. Something that didn't ask for surrender, something that had no mercy, something called the fire that eats suns. In the far edges of Drexari space, the star of Carith Prime glowed like it always had, calm, bright, giving life to 5 planets. Now it was gone. It didn't explode, it didn't collapse, it simply vanished. No warning, no radiation burst, no debris, just darkness where light used to live. A civilian transport entered the system minutes later. The pilot screamed when he saw it. There was no sun, no heat. The planets were freezing already. Cities below were dying, frozen in seconds. They sent a message back to Drexery High Command that it was only one sentence: "The sun is gone." Panic followed. The Drexery Council held an emergency meeting. Shouts echoed through the chamber. Advisors yelled about failed star cores, rogue black holes, energy field accidents. But then, an image arrived, footage from an old cargo station near the Carith system. It had picked up something strange just before the sun vanished. A small, dark object had entered the solar system. It looked like a cube, no larger than a house. It hovered near the star for 2 minutes. Then it released a pulsosphere of dark blue light. Seconds later, the sun blinked out. Gone. And stamped on the side of the object was Earth's military symbol. Not old Earth, not peaceful Earth, but the old, sealed logo from Earth's Burn Protocol Division, a department that, until now, most believed was a myth. In the Galactic Council, fear grew like a storm. They destroyed a star, one alien ambassador said, stunned. Another whispered, not destroyed, taken. They have weapons that can eat suns. Someone else added. The Council tried to send a message to Earth. Still, no reply. The silence returned, and with it, fear. On Earth, in a secret base, deep under Antarctica, Captain Mara Ilias stood before a glowing map. The system of Carith Prime was marked, with a black ring. One of her officers approached. "The council's panicking," he said. "Half the galaxy's in shock. The Drexari are retreating." "Good," Mara replied. "Let them know it's not just about revenge." She touched the map gently. "It's about remembering." The officer hesitated. "Some say using a solar collapse device was too far." Mara turned to him. "Too far was when they burned Colony LX-9 and laughed." He said nothing after that, because no one dared argue with a captain who had seen 1 million people die. Somewhere in space, another message leaked. No one knew who sent it, but it reached every major species across the stars. It was only a short video, a warning from Earth. It showed a black screen, then stars. Then Earth's symbol appeared, and a voice spoke, calm, emotionless. "This is not a war. This is history correcting itself. You broke the rule. You made us remember who we are. We will not ask. We will not warn. We will only end." The last scene of the message showed the Kereth sun disappearing in silence. Then the screen faded to black. Every species watched it. Some cried. Some ran. Began preparing their own fleets, not to fight but to surrender, because the message was clear. This wasn't just vengeance, it was a lesson. The Drexari High Command collapsed. 2 of their own generals defected. One tried to flee the galaxy. Another tried to surrender to Earth directly. He was never heard from again. A group of Drexari scientists begged the Emperor to open peace talks, but he refused. "Humans are bluffing," he said. "They only used one device. They won't use another." He was wrong. In a system called Telos Verge, another sun turned red. Then cracked. Then disappeared. Another one. Earth used the same weapon again. Now no one doubted them. Back in Earth's orbit, the Oathbreaker floated in silence. Its hull was now marked with 7 dark stars, 1 for each Drexari system lost. Its away calculated that 3 more attacks would collapse the Drexari economy completely, but Mara wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. This wasn't victory. This was justice. She turned to her second in command. "Begin deployment of plasma comets." He blinked. "Ma'am, are we moving to stage 3? "Yes," she said. "They've had their chance." Plasma comets were not real comets. They were weapons made to burn planets, not hit them. They passed through atmospheres at high speed, leaving behind a wake of superheated gas and radioactive winds. They didn't just destroy, they erased, and Earth had built hundreds, hidden in moons, stored inside black holes, launched only when humanity decided not to forgive. In the Drexari outer colonies, night came early, one by one, skies filled with glowing white fire. The comets arrived. They didn't explode. They passed above cities, above mountains, above oceans. Then the world caught fire. Nothing could stop them. No shields, no bunkers. The fire didn't kill quickly, it taught. It reminded, and every survivor who crawled out of the ash had one thing to say: "Don't make Earth angry." Back at the Galactic Council, silence ruled the chamber. No one shouted now, no one shouted now, no one mocked. Even the Drexari ambassador sat frozen, trembling. Then the Arvan elder stood again, his ancient voice soft. "You see now," he said, "why there is one rule we all lived by for centuries. And you broke it. You didn't just start a war, you woke something that had learned to sleep." Across the galaxy, planets dimmed their lights. Ships turned away from Earth's space. Trade networks rewired to avoid Sol system completely. Earth hadn't sent soldiers. They had sent a message, and the galaxy had received it. Loud, clear, burning, never make humanity angry. Because if you do, they will burn your sons, and you will learn that silence was mercy. The Drexari homeworld, Zornak, had never been this quiet. Its skies, once full of ships and celebration, now held no traffic. Its cities were still. Its people stayed underground, afraid to look up. Every hour brought new news of destruction. Colony worlds gone, star systems erased, suns stolen, and still Earth said nothing. No messages, no ambassadors, no warnings, just fire and silence. Inside the Imperial Palace, Drexari Emperor Kator stood before a massive screen. Behind him, his generals whispered nervously. Before him stood a long glass podium, with a red button at its center. It would send one final message to the galaxy. The Emperor raised his hand slowly. "This will end the war," he said. "We will admit defeat. We will call for peace. The humans will have no choice but to listen." No one in the room was sure he believed that, but no one stopped him. He pressed the button, the cameras activated, satellites connected, 1,000 relays linked. This wasn't just a message, it was a galaxy-wide transmission. The Emperor stood tall, his voice deep, proud, but shaking. "To the species of the stars," he began, "and to Earth, I speak now not as a ruler, but as a servant of peace. We, the Drexery, recognize that our actions led to pain. The colony we destroyed was a mistake. We wish to open dialogue. We surrender." He paused. "I repeat, we surrender." Across the stars, screens lit up with his face. Millions of beings watched. Ships halted mid-flight. Council members leaned forward, but then something strange happened. The video feed froze. The Emperor's mouth stopped moving. The image went darka. New signal had taken over the broadcast. Static. Then a line of white text appeared. "Transmission intercepted by order of Earth Command." Gasps spread across every council chamber, warship, and civilian world. This wasn't just war anymore. This was something else. Something deeper. A choice. The Drexery surrender. Message had been erase blocked before it could finish. And then a voice came through the intercepted. Signal.com.familiar.human.ilias. "There is no surrender," she said. "Not for you. Not for those who break the one rule." Across the galaxy, fear exploded. The Drexery message was never replayed. The Emperor fell to his knees in front of the dead. Camera, he looked at his generals. They didn't let them hear. "Us," he whispered. "They want us forgotten." In the darkest corner of Drexery space, refugees tried to escape. Families crowded into old ships. Civilians begged for help. Some reached nearby systems' neutral zones, but when they asked for shelter, they were turned away. "We can't help you," the Gronics said. "Earth is watching." The Makori refused to. "If we open our borders to you," they said, "we might be next." The Drexery realized they were alone, and the silence was growing heavier. On Earth, Mara stood before a new war map. Over 90% of Drexery territory was now marked in black, burned, controlled, gone. Her AI assistant spoke softly. "Phase 3 completed. Final assets ready." Mara nodded. "Activate architect override." The AI paused. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said. "Then confirm the final protocol." Mara looked out the window. "You know the name." The AI spoke it. "Galaxy reset. Initiated." Far above Earth, in a station orbiting Jupiter, a device lit up for the first time in 120 years. It had no name, just a code, Echo Omega, a weapon designed not to kill but to erase, not worlds, not fleets, but memory. Within minutes, secret satellites, across Drexery space activated. They began wiping data. History files, genetic records, communication networks. Entire planets woke up with broken archives, missing language banks, empty databases. Children couldn't learn. Soldiers couldn't organize. Civilians couldn't remember their own history. They had not just lost the war, they were being deleted from time. On the edge of Drexery space, a lone scout ship tried to send a beacon. Its pilot cried out, "They're erasing us. This isn't just punishment, this is extinction." But his signal never made it out. The beacon burned before it reached jump distance. Earth's final weapon wasn't fire, it was silence, permanent silence, and it was absolute. The Galactic Council met again, this time without the Drexery. Their ambassador seat was empty. No one dared speak for them, no one dared challenge Earth. The Arvan Elder stood. One last time he looked across the chamber. "You all thought Earth forgot," he said, "that they were soft, that they would forgive." He pointed at the empty Drexery seat. "This is what happens when you forget the rule." He paused, then whispered it again. "Never make humanity angry." In the shadows of space, Earth's ships returned home. Not all. Some remained in the dark, waiting, watching. Not for war but for memory. To make sure no one forgets, because Earth would not speak again. They had made their point, and now, they would let the silence do the rest. The stars used to hum, not real sound, but energy, life. Trade ships gliding through systems, communications bouncing between satellites, music, laughter, business, war cries. Every corner of the galaxy once glowed with noise and purpose. Now, silence. It wasn't sudden, it had crept in. First, Drexery space went dark, then the systems nearby followed, systems that had once traded with them, talked with them, protected them. Now, no signals came out, no transports left. They became ghost sectors. From orbit, they still looked alive. Lights flickered in cities. Drones drifted in the sky. But if anyone dared to land, they found only cold machines, dead terminals, and quiet streets. No bodies. No war damage. Just absence. An entire species vanished. But not from death. From memory. On the planet Thurin, for an old traveler arrived after 17 years away. He stepped into his old town, but the signs had changed. The Drexery language was gone. The statues were removed. The old archives had been rewritten. When he asked the locals what happened to the Drexery, they looked confused. Who that was when he realized they hadn't just lost, they had been erased completely across the stars. Whispers began. Earth is watching. Don't say their name. If your comms go silent, it's already too late. The Galactic Council avoided the topic. The Drexery seat stayed empty, unspoken, untouched. No one even looked at it now. Councillors changed the subject when asked. Diplomats refused to speak to journalists. Entire universities sealed away Earth's history records, fearing that even studying the past might bring attention. And Earth said nothing. Their ships did not return. Their leaders did not speak. No more broadcasts. No more strikes. Just nothing. But that was the most terrifying part, because silence had become the warning. A fleet commander from the Valari Union noticed something strange. One of their patrol ships vanished near Sector 9, G Alpha Drexery Frontier. No signal. Number debris. Just gone. A week later, one of Earth's Black Flag drones appeared above the Valari homeworld, not armed, not attacking. Just watching. The commander fell to his knees and ordered all border activity to stop. The drone left. Earth didn't say a word, but the message was clear. Stay away. In the Trade Guild's central station, business slowed. Merchants feared entering Earth's systems. They didn't know the rules anymore. Would a wrong word trigger destruction? Would curiosity be seen as defiance? 1,000 years of politics had built the galactic order, but now, it was Earth's silence that held the galaxy in place. On a quiet moon near the ruined Drexari space, a group of explorers discovered something strange. A cave full of old Drexari writings, their history, their culture, their dreams. The explorers began translating it. They didn't mean harm. But within 3 days, every one of them was gone. No trace. Their ship was found empty. A single message was left carved into its hull in perfect Terran standard. Some things are not to be remembered. That was the new law. Not written, not voted. Just enforced. By silence. On Earth, Captain Mara Ilias stood in a garden. The war was over. There were no more fleets, no more orders, just wind and flowers. A child approached her, the daughter of a family that once lived on Colony LX-9. She looked up at Mara. Did we win? She asked. Mara knelt down. Her voice was quiet. No, the girl blinked. But they're gone. Mara nodded. That wasn't the goal. Then, what was the goal? Mara looked up at the sky. To remind them. The girl was quiet for a moment. Will they forget again? Mara didn't answer because deep down she knew the truth. One day someone would forget. Someone would dig too deep, speak too loudly, laugh at the silence. And on that day, the stars would go quiet again, back in space. One final message circled through the hidden satellites of Earth's defense net. It wasn't meant for now, it was for later. A beacon sleeping, ready to speak, only if the galaxy ever forgot again. Its words were simple. Cold. Eternal. We tried peace. You broke it. We tried silence. You feared it. The next time there will be nothing left. And then the beacon powered down. The stars returned to their gentle glow. But the galaxy had changed forever. Now, even in peace, there was tension in every orbit, fear in every transmission, because Earth had never claimed control. They had never asked for thrones, or power, or borders. They had claimed only one thing, respect, and they had taken it with silence. 200 years had passed. The galaxy looked peaceful. Trade had returned. New alliances had formed. Earth remained quiet, never interfering, never expanding. No war fleets, no broadcasts, no warnings. Their systems were still protected, their space still avoided. But over time, the fear began to fade. Species came and went, leaders died, and the new generation didn't remember the fire. They read whispers in old archives. They studied forbidden stories in secret. They asked questions, in private rooms. And slowly, dangerously, they began to think Earth was just a myth, just old fear, just silence. Then a new species arrived. They called themselves the VAR-NAK, tall, strong, brilliant. They came from beyond the rim, past the old stellar walls. Fast learners, ambitious, bold, too bold. They joined the council within a decade, spoke with confidence, took trade routes others feared, pushed into quiet systems. And then one day, they entered a restricted sector, a system near where Drexery once lived. It was marked in all maps with a single red warning, do not enter, forbidden. But the Varnic didn't listen. They believed the silence was weakness, so they sent a science. Ship.1 mission.2, uncover Earth's old secrets, to finally see if the myths were real. The ship disappeared, no distress call, no explosion, just gone. The Varnik sent a second ship to find them. That one vanished. 2. So they sent a third. Military, this time it never returned. Still, the Varnik didn't stop. They accused Earth of hiding ancient power. They called for answers in the council. One Varnik ambassador stood and laughed. Why does no one question Earth? He shouted. We are hundreds of species, and they are one, and they rule us with fear. No more. The chamber was silent. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. No one replied. The Varnik shouted louder. We are not afraid of their silence. Then, the lights dimmed, only for a moment, but when they came back, something changed. The ambassador was gone. Vanished. No trace. No teleport logs. No sensor trails. His seat was still warm. His cup still full. But he was no longer in the universe. And in front of his empty chair, a message had appeared, not spoken, just written in white light on the floor. You broke the rule. Panic spread. The Varnock screamed for answers. They sent fleets toward Earth space, but the stars were quiet. No return fire. No warnings. Silence. Then the first Varnak world lost its sun. Destroyed. Stolen. Again. The galaxy remembered. Too late. Ships fled. Systems locked down. Treaties were signed overnight. But the Varnik kept pushing. Until the comets returned. White trails burning across their skies. They tried to surrender. They sent a message to Earth. It never reached them, or maybe it did. And Earth simply chose not to answer. Again. On a small world far from the war, a young student named Solon studied history in secret. He had heard the stories. He didn't laugh. He didn't doubt. And when his teacher asked, why does Earth never speak? He answered with only 4 words, because they already did. On the final day, the Varnock homeworld stood silent. Above it, a shape appeared. Not a ship, not a weapon, just a single, smooth, black sphere. It hovered, and then across the galaxy, every screen turned on. Every ship. Every device, even in sleep. One last broadcast. A human voice. The same voice from centuries ago. It said, the rule was broken once. That was enough. You taught your children to forget. So we reminded them. This is not revenge. This is memory. Then the screen turned black. The Varnik world was never seen again. No fire, no explosion, just gone. And silence returned stronger than ever. In the council, the Drexery seat remained empty now. The Varnik seat sat empty beside it. No one asked questions anymore. The council passed a new law, spoken in every tongue, etched into every station, taught in every school. There is one rule that keeps the galaxy safe. Never make humanity angry.